Growing up in Southern California has made me realize that I don't know what a truly dark sky looks like, so I decided to take a road trip to find out. We'll be traveling 1,800 miles through multiple states to get to two of the darkest skies you're going to find anywhere. Make sure you grab your snacks, because you're coming along for the ride. We're going to pick up where we left off, which is about halfway through our trip. So if you missed the first episode, make sure to check the link in the description to get caught up. But if you're already caught up, then welcome back. These episodes will be a little different than my usual videos because I'm going to include a travel vlog along with my usual astrophotography lesson. So if travel's not your thing, feel free to check the link in the description for an index that you can use to jump around. In the first episode, I showed you how to use the light pollution map to find a dark sky location, as well as some other tools to help you choose where exactly you're going to set up your equipment. In this episode, I'm going to give you a few hints to help your trip run a little more smoothly, as well as my takeaways on how shooting from a dark sky location differs from shooting from a light polluted area. And don't forget to stick around to the end when I reveal my Bortle 2 image. The first episode left off with our spectacular trip to the Craters of the Moon National Monument in Idaho. It was there that I took my favorite image to date. But will we be able to beat it with the Bortle 2 skies of Zion? We're leaving Idaho headed for Salt Lake City, Utah, where we'll spend one night. We've never been here before, so we wanted to see what it was all about. Salt Lake City is the capital of Utah. Even so, I somehow didn't expect it to be this built up. Even though the skyscrapers give it a big city feel, it didn't feel like any city I've ever been to. I was surprised at how clean everything was. Maybe they have some of those Disneyland sweeping people here or something.
We're using Salt Lake City as a stop-off point. We really know nothing about it, but Yvonne's sister told us that they had a really big mall, so we went and we checked out that mall, and it was very pretty, but it did not have the one thing that we were looking for, so we've driven 30 minutes south to Murray, Utah, and this mall has a Lego store. That's the only thing you really need in the mall, so we're gonna go check that out.
Big cities aren't really our thing. I'm more of a sit alone in the dark and watch the stars kind of guy. So we headed out to our room at the Hyatt Place Hotel near the airport. Now, near the airport is an understatement. This place is almost on the tarmac. We actually had some fun watching the planes land for a little while. I don't know what the walls are made of in this hotel, maybe adamantium or something, but you couldn't hear any of these planes from our room. I'm super impressed. From our room, this air conditioner is louder than these planes are. We only stay at hotels with free breakfast, and you can't go wrong with breakfast burritos and waffles. Don't judge me.
We're at Robert's restaurant, and we got served by Robert himself. We felt honored and privileged. All of his servers were out sick, so he's having to run the show all by himself, and he did a great job. And everything was delicious, so we highly recommend it. If you're in Salt Lake City near the airport, good food.
So apparently Salt Lake City got its name because of a little lake that's nearby. It's not little, it's a giant lake, second only in size to the Great Lakes themselves. So you can't not see that. We stopped by and wow, this was not what we expected. This place is amazing in terms of its size. It stretches beyond the horizon in some places. But since it's a saltwater lake, it grows this type of algae that the flies love. There were so many flies. But don't worry, their numbers are kept in check by the spiders. So many spiders. The people who made that movie Arachnophobia were going to film some scenes here, but they decided it was too scary. We left. Another 4 hours on the road took us to Kolob Canyon in the northwest corner of Zion National Park. Its high elevation, remote location, and minimal light pollution means some of the darkest skies in the region. We started at the Kolob Canyon's Visitor Center for maps and ranger tips, and then headed up the road to the overlook. As in Craters of the Moon National Monument, the rangers said that I could set up my rig at the overlook as long as I didn't set up a camp or fall asleep. Unfortunately, the Forsyth fire was nearing its peak at 15,000 acres while we were here, and the canyon was filled with smoke, which made it a no-go for astrophotography. But the geography still provided us with breathtaking views. This is definitely worth checking out.
This is a magnificent spot, but it's unfortunately not going to work because of all this smoke from the fire back here, so we're going to have to find a different place to take our pictures tonight.
We continued 30 minutes south to the Fairfield Inn in Virgin, Utah. It had been a long day and we were getting hungry, so we checked in, tossed our stuff, and headed into town for some dinner.
We just ate at the Rooster Run Cafe, and I had the breakfast burrito, and it was the most amazing burrito that I have ever had anywhere ever. Hands down. Emily had the spaghetti. She raves about it, said it was delicious, but she loves all spaghetti, so that doesn't say much. My wife got the chicken pot pie, and she said that was the best pot pie she's ever had. So yes, if you are in Utah, come to the Rooster Run Cafe. It is amazing. We're going to eat here every night.
We were tired, but there's always room for dessert, right? Well, on the way back to the hotel, a really bad accident had just occurred and the road was completely closed. My grandma used to say that when you get delayed, it's the Lord trying to protect you from something. Perhaps that dessert spared us from being the ones in this accident. They told us to turn around and go the back way because it was going to be at least 2 to 3 hours before the road reopened. Google was telling us that this was the only way, and the back way to go around would be a 117-mile detour through Arizona that would be another 2 to 3 hours by itself. So we were too tired for that kind of a drive, so we drove back into town and caught a late-night movie. 2 hours later, we were back at the scene being told it was going to be another 2 or 3 hours. But this officer knew of a back way, off-road in the middle of the night through the middle of the desert. If you were brave enough, it would be only a 12-mile detour. We decided to go for it. We got back safely and finally turned in after a very long day. The next day, we ventured into Zion National Park, Utah's first national park. Its landscape is dominated by towering red cliffs, narrow canyons, and dramatic mesas. The centerpiece, Zion Canyon, was carved by the Virgin River with walls rising over 2,000 feet. Hikers come for iconic trails like Angel's Landing, with its dizzying ridges, and the Narrows, where the river itself becomes the trail. At night, Zion transforms into a stargazer's paradise, part of the Dark Sky Park initiative, where the Milky Way stretches across skies free from city lights. With millions of years of geological history painted in its colorful sandstone, limestone, and shale layers, Zion is more than a park, it's a natural masterpiece. There's a lot to see here, but like most national parks during the summer season, it was pretty crowded. But I found something really cool on Google Maps that's apparently off most people's radar: the Grafton Ghost Town. In 1859, this small town was founded by a small group of Mormon settlers. It's being beautifully restored, and many of the original buildings, including stone homes and the Grafton Chapel, still stand and are open for you to explore on your own. You should definitely check it out, but please be respectful by leaving no trace. It was on our second night in Zion that I took the trip to my dark sky site. Zion isn't like Craters of the Moon. There's only one road accessible to private vehicles, and there aren't any parking lots that you can set up in along the way. Most of the hiking takes place along a second road, only accessible via shuttle bus, and dragging all my gear on a bus just wasn't an option. Smoke from the Forsyth fire had only gotten worse since yesterday, so my original plan to set up at Kolob Canyon Overlook wasn't going to work. When I conducted the research for this trip, I selected backups for each of my primary locations, so the new plan was to travel several miles up North Kolob Terrace Road to one of the many trailheads along the way. I found the Left Fork trailhead to be the perfect location, and so I pulled in and started setting up. The parking lot was eerily empty, not a single car. But little did I know I wasn't alone. The first sound came just after midnight. A low grunt, 2 sharp huffs.
Hey!
Then silence. It wasn't a pig, it was heavier. And it was close. I swept my flashlight across the wall of trees, expecting to catch the glint of eyes staring back at me in the night. But there was nothing. Just the dense black void between the branches. Nothing except that haunting sound, those 2 huffs, but they echoed in my mind over and over. An hour passed, no more noises. I let myself believe it was gone, and I started to relax. And then it came again. But this time the sound had shifted from the north to the east. Whatever it was moving, silently, watching me from the shadows concealed in the dark. I was alone. There was no cell service here. I told my wife where I was, but was she paying attention? Would she remember? I wasn't expected back for hours. I continued about my business, staying in the car as much as I could, but intermittent technical problems required my occasional attention outside in the dark. All that was left was to capture my flats and pack it up, but that would take time. Time outside the car. I focused on my work. Was it still there? Had it moved on? I couldn't let it distract me. Messing anything up at this stage would cost me the whole shoot. I was almost done, and still silence. I thought I was in the clear. But again, I was wrong. The sound. It was close now, and loud. It didn't like my flurry of activity. It had moved again, placing itself between me and the only exit. It was out there. Something didn't want me here. Lesson time. All right, so that was a real story. Some animal was stalking me all night long, and it was totally scary. So the first thing I want to talk about here is that when you go to a dark sky location, you are kind of by definition going away from everything. To get away from all those lights, you're going to be out on your own in the wilderness, and you may not have cell phone service, and no one may come looking for you for many hours. Make sure that you've told someone where you're going to be so that they know where to look for you if you don't come back home at the scheduled time. But even still, you're going to need to kind of be able to fend for yourself if something were to happen. So I recommend that you bring some bear spray, or at minimum some pepper spray with you. The main difference between the two is they're basically the same stuff, but the bear spray is a much larger canister. It'll shoot a greater volume, a further distance, and the further you can keep a bear away from you, the better. If you live in a place where you can bring a firearm, that might be a good thing, but you got to be careful with that. In the United States, every state has different rules. Even if you're in a federal park, the federal parks still defer to the state laws, so it may not be legal for you to bring something like that. You may live in a country where you don't have access to something like that. So think to yourself, what kind of animals might I encounter, and what would I do if I were to get attacked? Maybe you can bring something else, like a machete or something. I don't know. All I'm saying is that you need to think about these things and have a plan for what to happen if something were to sneak up on you. The scariest part of this encounter was not so much that I could hear something out there, it was that it was able to move completely silently. So if it can move from one location to another without me hearing it, it could easily have snuck up on me as well without me hearing it. So just think about these things, bring a first aid kit with you, maybe a tourniquet or something, whatever you need to do. Keep yourself safe. For lesson number 2, let's talk about the differences between dark sky sites and light polluted sites. This was the first time that I had gone to dark sky locations, and so I didn't fully understand what to expect. The first thing that I noticed is light gradients are definitely reduced in a dark sky location. Some part of me kind of thought that I wouldn't have any light gradients at all, but they are still there, and that makes sense. Unless you're going to Antarctica or something, there's always going to be some amount of light pollution on your horizon. Now, at a dark sky location, it is a lot easier to edit that stuff out and deal with it in post than it is when you have light polluted skies, so that's a plus. Also, the amount of contrast that you have, your signal to noise ratio is going to be so much better. The stellar objects you're trying to image are going to stand out against that black sky so much better than they do when you're at a light polluted location. That's going to allow you to see fine details that you otherwise wouldn't be able to capture at all. The year was 1998. I had just graduated high school, and I was headed to Sequoia National Park for my first road trip adventure. I drove all the way there, set up my tent, grabbed my telescope, and in the middle of the night after the moon had set,
I hiked up to the top of this big rock called Morro Rock. I set up my telescope in pitch darkness, only to discover that I had forgotten the eyepieces. So I break the whole telescope down, go hiking down the mountain in the pitch black, having never got to see anything. If you don't listen to any of my advice in this video, please listen to this one thing. Before you ever begin your trip, set up your telescope, set up the whole thing, plug in all the wires and test it. You don't have to actually capture any usable data. You just need to make sure that you can achieve focus and that everything is working the way that it should. When you're all done with your test and you've confirmed that your telescope is working properly, take all of the wires and all of the things that you have done and put them into your bag. Only bring what you need, but everything that comes off of that working rig goes into your bag, and then you don't open it again until you get to your dark sky location. That way you know you had all of the parts necessary to make that thing work, and when you get to your site, you won't have to break it all down and come home defeated.
The next thing I want to address is differences in filters. So I went to 2 different dark sky locations, Bortle 1 in Idaho, that was LRGB, and then Bortle 2 in Utah, that was SHO, or narrowband. There's a significant difference in these filters under dark sky conditions, and I think that we need to talk about it. So LRGB benefits the most from a dark sky. The narrowband filters are kind of designed for light pollution. So if you go to a place where there is no light pollution, then it's kind of almost defeats the point. You can still get creative with narrowband filters at a dark sky location, especially if you want to experiment moving your filters on different channels to try different types of palettes and stuff. But I might argue that you can do that from home under light polluted skies. Those narrowband filters are designed to cut through the light pollution and get just to that stellar signal. The LRGB is not going to filter out any of your light pollution. It is wideband. It is letting in stuff from across the entire spectrum. So if you're shooting under dark skies with no light pollution, everything you're imaging is just signal, and that is what dark skies were made for. So I recommend reserving your LRGB for your dark sky. You'll also need much shorter exposure time under dark skies than you would under light polluted skies. That was kind of a surprise to me. The signal stands out so much better against that dark background that you can really pull in the photons really quick, even for fainter targets. Now, if you're using narrowband under dark skies, yes, they are going to cut out light pollution, of which there is none, but they are also going to sort of cut into your signal a little bit as well. So oddly enough, even though the sky is dark, you're still going to need probably about the same amount of exposure time with your narrowband filters as you would from your light polluted skies back home as well. So that came as a surprise to me. I shot 2 hours with my LRGB target and 2 hours with my SHO target, and the SHO needed more. When I got that data home and started processing it, there was a lot of noise in there. If you're bringing your telescope to your dark sky location, bring your big camera too. Set it up, especially if you have a star tracker or something. While your telescope is doing its thing, let your regular camera take some pictures of the Milky Way. Get some landscape elements in there. You're going to end up with a really nice shot. You're already there anyway, might as well get a 2-for-1. You're probably going to have driven a long way to get to your dark sky site, so you want to make sure that you are using your time wisely to get as much exposure time as you can. But while you're there, take some time for yourself. Bring a chair while your rig is doing its thing and look up. I have never seen the sky like I did at these dark sky locations. It was absolutely breathtaking. When I got to my dark sky site, the smoke from that fire was blowing towards the north, and that was where my target was. And my backup target in the west was also affected by the smoke. So while I'm there in the dark wasting time, I'm trying to pick a tertiary target, and I look up and I can see with my naked eye the Omega Nebula. And I didn't even realize that you could see that with the naked eye. I thought that the Orion Nebula was the only one that you could see with your naked eye. Because my skies are so light polluted, I can barely see even the brightest stars anymore. So to be able to see that, I was like, what is that? So I pointed the telescope at this seemingly random location and took a picture, and then it's the Omega Nebula, and it's gorgeous. I'm going to take a picture of that. And so as I'm fumbling with it, I see the Sagittarius star cloud is right there, and I wanted a fainter target. I mean, the Omega Nebula is so bright that you can image it from anywhere. I can image that from home. So why do I want to waste dark sky time with that target? And so I wanted something faint too, and I had a wide enough field of view that I decided I'll put the Omega up here, and I'll get the Sagittarius star cloud with all of its jillions of stars in the other corner, and kind of get a little balance offset there. I think this picture came out really nice, but that picture of the Shark Nebula I took in Idaho, if you haven't seen that video, you got to check the link in the description. That is my favorite capture to date. Be sure to check it out. If you liked this video or learned anything today, make sure you give me a thumbs up, and please consider subscribing. Leave me a comment to let me know what you think about this picture. And until next time, clear skies.